So welcome back to another episode, and wait, I didn't turn on my lights. It's not Christmas without lights, folks. You need fucking lights, and lots of them. It ain't Christmas without fucking lights, and this thing coming down to about there. I'm happy now. We can begin. So welcome back to another episode, and keeping with the holiday season, I thought I'd do an episode where I look back on the late 80s, early 90s about some Christmas presents I got, some of the best Christmas presents I've ever gotten. And I think it was just the time period in my life. This is from like 14 to 18 years old, and man, I was pretty lucky some of these Christmases. I really was, and it made me a video gamer for life. A lot of these stories I have talked about in different episodes over the years, and I decided to kind of collect them all into one big kind of Christmas episode, looking at all of these things through the years from like 1988 up to 1992. And I'll start in 1988. I had a phenomenal Christmas, and this Christmas is a very nostalgic Christmas for myself, that all of my family was there. It's one of those classic memories from 1988 when I think about waking up Christmas morning. There my dad is by the fireplace, putting in wood into that. Little cinders are flying onto the carpet. The tree is set up. It was a real Christmas tree. I live in an apartment now. We are not allowed real Christmas trees because of fire hazards. There has to be something ruining everything nowadays. And just the smell of that pine. I'm waking up and my mom was there, my sister was there, and I got this Christmas present right here, Super Mario Brothers 2. And I had heard about kids at school talking about it. I was in grade 8 at the time, and I was just so thrilled to have this game. And this is during a time where I didn't see any movies of this game. I wasn't seeing all this stuff on the internet. I didn't even really know what the box art looked like. It was once I opened up the present that morning, I was like, wow. It's like, obviously I loved Mario 1. I finished it multiple times, and then it was time for number 2, and I put number 2 in, and it transported me away. I couldn't believe what a phenomenal sequel. It was just like leaps and bounds, no pun intended, better than Super Mario Brothers 1. The music and everything, and I'll never forget that morning, and my mother, God, I feel so sorry for parents. They end up getting, like dishes and stupid stuff like that, and tools, and for Christmas. And my mom got this thing, a Snack Master. I should say my mom and dad got it for themselves. A Snack Master, where you put 2 pieces of bread into this machine, and you put some cheese or whatever in the middle, and some onion or whatever kind of toppings you want to put, and it kind of squeezes them together and toasts this sandwich. It's like a toasted sandwich type of thing. And I'll never forget playing this game and my mom trying her brand new contraption upstairs and bringing me this grilled cheese and onion sandwich, and it was like the most amazing thing I had ever had. And I don't know why, that just is cemented in one of my Christmas memories. I'll never forget the Super Mario Brothers 2 Christmas. 1989, it was the second coming of Sega. There was a Sega Master System in the United States and in Europe and in Canada, and it wasn't doing that well, where Sega decided to up the ante. It brought over the Mega Drive from Japan, and Christmas morning I woke up to a beautiful big wrap box, and I'm like, no, there's no way. There's no way. There was a fucking way. And it was a Sega Genesis. And that morning I opened this thing up and I just marveled at this futuristic design. Look at this design. It looked like it was from the future. It even had a headphone jack and a volume switch for your headphones, which was kind of amazing at the time. And it came with one game. My parents got me one game. Obviously, I got the pack in, Altered Beast. I beat that in like 15 to 20 minutes. Then I was on to the main course, and my parents got me Last Battle. And Last Battle is known in Japan as the Fist of the North Star. And it was so amazing. And I didn't know it was Fist of the North Star until maybe a couple of years later. This was a side view beat 'em up, kind of with some RPG elements, and that's stretching it a little bit. You fight enemies and you kind of power up through it, and you just fight wave after wave of bad guys in a post-apocalyptic future world. And in the Japanese version, there's a lot of blood. In this version, all the blood was edited out. But this kind of cemented to me that the arcade experience was home. I saw it with Altered Beast. I definitely saw it with this game. And just hearing the music and using the big controller that morning. That controller was massive. I just had to dig it out here. This controller, when you were playing it on Christmas morning and you were a smaller kid, I was a smaller kid, I was like, this thing is huge, this is crazy. I'd never seen such a giant controller in my life just for 3 buttons, you know? And obviously the start button here, but I remember playing Last Battle and being in awe of these. When I pressed a button, it felt like I was really pressing a button. I was really landing a punch or a kick, and I won't forget the huge controller Christmas morning. And then my friend Andrew came over, brought Space Harrier, and I was like, I think I'm gonna like the Genesis. And I did. And after Christmas, I picked up Alex Kidd. And then I also picked up Revenge of Shinobi, my favorite Genesis game of all time. Now, in 1990, I had the TurboGrafx, and there was a promise of this device that looked incredible and insane and unbelievable. Cutting edge technology, CD-ROM technology, where video games could be on CD. You couldn't believe this back then. As I say, like, CD music had just come out a few years before that, and so now you could play video games on CD, and they would have orchestrated soundtracks and huge cinematics, and the game developers were promising, you know, the games would be twice as long, and then when you're like 15, 16 years old, that's exactly what you want to hear. You want one game to last forever. And here's something. This is gonna sound bad. I was going out with a girl at the time, and I had an inkling. I'm like, did they get me the Turbo CD? I'm like, my God, it was really expensive. It was like $299. I think it was even more than that. American at the time, and I was like, you know, I don't know if this is a really expensive item. And so this is where I'm a bad guy. Back in 1990, this is 27 years ago, where my parents had a loft. And I was with my girlfriend one afternoon, and I was like, you know, I gotta see if this is true. I just gotta see this. I got a little step ladder, and I opened up the loft, and I've talked about this before, and I opened it up, and it's just like, you know, just like spider webs, and it's dark, and it's cold, and I'm just looking around, and then all of a sudden, I kind of turned all the way around, and there was this big wrapped up box, and a paper bag was in front of it. And I'm like, that big box. I'm like, because I'd never seen the box for the TurboGrafx CD before. I didn't know how huge it is. It's like gigantic. It's really big. I wish I still had the box. But this paper bag, I opened it up, and there was Easebooks 1 and 2. I was just like blown away. I had the cardboard back then. Actually, I still have the cardboard. Here it is. I had this on the shelf. It's not in great condition because what I did back then, I opened up the game, and you just did this back then. I taped it to the wall, so it has tape marks on it. But I opened it up. This is the exact copy I opened up 27 years ago, and I was just like, oh my God, they got me Easebooks 1 and 2. They got me a TurboGrafx CD player. This was an RPG in the TurboGrafx CD that every single video game magazine was giving it like 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s, you know? The lowest score was 8, and even that was a great score, and I was like, I just remember I'm up in the I'm up in the attic, have my bodies up there, you know, I'm standing on this stool, and my girlfriend's sitting there like, she was not into video games or of any interest like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it, I'm freaking out. And she's like, oh, what are you getting so excited about? I'm like, they got me Easebooks 1 and 2. And I was thrilled. I was absolutely so thrilled. And then the long wait to Christmas happened. And you know, here's the thing. A lot of people would say, you ruined Christmas. You saw it beforehand. No, it actually enhanced Christmas. The build-up to play it was even more exciting. Like, there's like another month and a half to go, and I was like freaking out, and I couldn't wait. And then that morning when I did open it up, my surprise was real. That I finally saw the, you know, the TurboGrafx CD player, and I saw, you know, obviously Easebooks 1 and 2, and I put them together, and I hooked up a little stereo, and I annoyed the hell out of my family because I had this 26-inch, my parents had a 26-inch TV, and I hooked the stereo into my, like, stereo, this little ghetto blaster, I should say, and just blasted it out, And the music of that morning was like something else. And I had my friends over, and everybody just couldn't believe this game and this music. You have to understand, 27 years ago, you'd never seen cinematics like this. You'd never heard music like this. I made like little tape cassettes of the music from this game because it was that big of a deal. And what a morning! What a morning! I was already an Ys fan from the Master System, but this took it into a whole different direction. The graphics and was so bright and colorful, the music, and I was an Ys fan for life, and I am still 27 years later. I'm always trying to preach the gospel of Ys, and I'll do it till the day I die on this planet, and that is absolute. So, great Christmas morning. I swear I'm wearing the PC Engine shirt for a reason. The next Christmas, 1991, under the Christmas tree was some pretty cool things. One of them was a sequel to that last Christmas, Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys. And not only did I get this, but I got something that was very important to me when I was 16 years old. Very important to me. My parents bought me my own TV, a little 21-inch television. And I was so thrilled to see that because we were always arguing who was going to use the TV. And now I didn't have to argue. I remember opening up the box and I was like, I can play Ys 3 in my room? Is this real life? And I went and I put the TV in my room. I did all the settings to make sure all the picture quality was looking good back then. I hooked in the TurboGrafx CD. I put in Ys 3. And it was something the fuck else. I was so absolutely thrilled. And I had friends of mine come over in the afternoon to visit me. And I remember they came in and there's this one guy called Kevin McGee. And he walks in. He's this goofy guy. But he walks in and I remember I had Ys playing on the TV. And the one thing I've said this in past videos. The one thing I never will forget back then, I remember him going, oh wow, look at all the different layers moving there, and he's talking about parallax scrolling, and there was so many different layers, and I was like, yeah, isn't that cool? And I felt cool. Parallax scrolling made me feel cool. That was a great thing, and my parents were really good. Just before Christmas, we were looking around at this in Metrotown Mall. It's a mall that's near me, and you know how sometimes Christmas time back in the 80s and 90s. Little stores would show up just for Christmas and then they disappear after Christmas. There was this like little Japanese video game store that opened up. I swear to God, it only had like 20 games in there. One of them was Spriggan. And I looked at the cover for this. I was sold just from the cover alone. I was like, that cover looks great. And I knew it was a shooter. And I just said to my parents, oh, this would be amazing. This would be amazing if I could get this for Christmas. And they're like, yeah. We were kind of walking by the stall. And, you know, I never thought about it again. And Christmas morning when I opened up this, I'm like, they listened to me. Holy shit. I can't believe they got me Ghost Warrior Spriggan, a great overhead shooter. And I remember playing this and playing Ys, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time that morning. It really was these bunch of Christmases were my TurboGrafx-y Christmases. And this is why I'm also a big TurboGrafx PC Engine fan for life. I played some amazing games back then, and I had some really great memories. Like, when I listen to music from either of these games, it transports me back to that Christmas. I'll never forget it. Now, after this, it is 1992. How could anybody top those other Christmases? Well, they couldn't, but they could. And I don't think I've ever talked about these two games, and I'm so thrilled I can talk about some of them today. One of them, they're both TurboGrafx games again. You knew this was going to happen. One of them was Dragon Slayer, The Legend of Heroes. This was an RPG, not to be confused with the other Dragon Slayer that was in arcades. It's not the same thing. This is a Falcom RPG series. We found out that there's a lot more of them, later on down the road, especially into nowadays. But back then, I didn't really know. I was like, Dragon Slayer? Oh, cool. This is neat. And I was so excited to play this as an RPG. A traditional RPG with, first-person combat, stuff like that. And one thing I have to admit about Dragon Slayer is this game should have been included in my worst dubbed episodes, where I talk about some of the worst video game dubs I've ever played. Last Alert, Final Zone 2. Dragon Slayer should be in here. This is This stuff will make your hair go up on ends. The voices are so horrendous.
A fine morning to you, my lord.
Good morning, Elias.
Ah, my dear Prince Logan. I understand from the gate guards that you're still indulging in slime bashing. I hardly think that such a childish pastime befits one who is destined to inherit the throne in just 2 more months. As I've said time and time again, the future is shaped by knowledge. I'm sure you'll agree that your time would be better spent in study rather than chasing those ghastly green jelly globs.
I remember I put in the game and I just started listening to the characters talk, and I just remember going, please stop. No, you're ruining it. You're ruining it. You're ruining the game. But the one thing I'll say about Dragon Slayer is it took me about 4 or 5 days. I powered through this game. I powered through it. And all of a sudden I was listening to the music of the final dragon that you fight in the game, and it was over. And I've always wanted to go back and play this game again because it's been so many years. Nearly like 26 years ago that I played it. And it's such a classic game from my childhood. This is a time when there wasn't video games like there are now. There wasn't thousands of video games. There was hundreds of games. And there was fewer RPGs. So when you did get one, it was a very exciting thing. This was a very exciting thing. Speaking of very exciting things, I gotta mention Cosmic Fantasy 2. Translated and brought over by Working Designs. And this is the only Cosmic Fantasy that has ever come into this country. And the one thing that I want to say about this is that I'm going to do a big special about Cosmic Fantasy in the future. It's all planned out. It's all written. All the footage is captured. We just have to get in and do it. And that's going to happen very, very soon. So I'll leave that till then. But I'll say my memory that I have of Cosmic Fantasy 2 during that Christmas time is me and my friend Andrew being stuck in this maze. This forest maze, and we couldn't figure out how to get through it, and we were going absolutely crazy. And my girlfriend at the time walks in and she's like, hey, do you want me to have a go at it? And we were so defeated, we're like, yeah, sure. And I'm just like, you're not gonna do it. Like, we've been here for like an hour trying to get through this. She did it her first try, and I always have a really good memory of her absolutely destroying Cosmic Fantasy 2, that little dungeon we were stuck on. And guys, I'll ask you, what are some of your favorite Christmas gifts that you've ever gotten? And it doesn't have to be in the 80s or 90s. It could just be last year. Maybe you got something that absolutely blew your mind. For me, you know, like, these games are very special. It's a very special time in my youth. And that's what it's all about. When you get older, you can get any type of game you want, and it's not really that tough. But when you're young, you really appreciate getting that 1 or 2 games a year for Christmas. It's something else, and you wait all year long for that, and it's absolutely magical. And these memories that I shared with you today are absolutely magical for me, and I just wanted to share them with you guys today. So anyways, guys, until next time.